Bill, I wanted to bring this up with you first today.
Sure.
David Purdom, who does such a wonderful job over there at ESPN.com, at Chalk. Do they still call it Chalk, by the way, over there? I don't know. I'll have to get a clarification.
I think they do. Yeah, I talk to David Bierman all the time over there. Yeah, I think they still call it Chalk.
Well, David Bierman was the one who tweeted this out. I actually saw it from him tweeting out Purdom's piece. But this is in regard to, obviously, the biggest sports story that's going on, which I've talked about ad nauseum this week with Felica and Pete Futak, is about college football and the fact that the Big Ten and the Pac-12, two of the Power Fives, have said, we're not playing in the fall. And in the Pac-12's case, is none of the sports playing in the fall. So a postponement to the spring at best in case of the Big Ten. I have my doubts about that. Anyway, this obviously has, ramifications for sportsbooks and how they deal with futures tickets. And so Purdom wrote this great piece. He said on Tuesday, the news of the Big Ten and the Pac-12 obviously goes down. And some of the other conferences, including all the other Power Fives, including, obviously the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC, and then some other conferences like, say, the Sun Belt, right? Other conferences like that are still in play as of this moment. So how do sportsbooks deal with this? And the piece went from book to book, or at least covered a few books. Caesar's house rules, for instance, according to the Purdom piece, stipulate that bets on the national championship are valid as long as a winner is declared in 2021. Meaning that wagers already placed on a Big Ten team, like Ohio State, for example, are still live. Bets on the Heisman Trophy winner will be honored as long as the award is presented before March 31st at Caesars. Jeff Davis, director of trading for Caesars, said, quote, when weird stuff happens like all of this, you can't plan for it. Some of this is going to be handled on a case-by-case situation. I won't go too far into this, but some of the other ones are my friend Jeff Stoneback over there, director of trading at BetMGM. He said, contrary to that, quote, we would refund the teams that don't play. If you've got teams that are in there now and they play the season and a champion is declared, we'd actually pay off on that. If you've got LSU and they're declared the winner, you'd get paid. If you have USC, we'll give you a refund. Obviously, difference between the SEC and the Pac-12 as it stands now. So that's the thing. Some sportsbooks odds specify, the article continues, that the national champion is the winner of the, quote, college football playoff championship game, unquote, which would cause issues if a playoff isn't possible. Caesars, however, just requires a national champion to be declared. And I'll just end it on this. Davis from Caesars, Jeff Davis, goes, quote, if Drake plays Northern Iowa in what the NCAA says is the national championship game, then everyone's on the hook. Anyway, by the way, FanDuel has an act of God stipulation. So it's book to book, and I'm just curious how you process all of that.
Yeah, that great piece by Purdom there. And, another thing is Jeff Davis over there at Caesars, absolutely great guy. And I love that he was quoted for this article because I really think Jeff, a guy like Jeff, and I like Jeff Stonebeck too, by the way, over at Arian.
Great guy.
Arian.
Yeah, he's at the Mirage, I believe. Yeah, great guy.
Oh, he's at the Mirage. But he's like the boss over there now.
Yes.
Good for him.
Mm-hmm.
And two good guys, and I hope that William Hill keeps Jeff Davis because it would be a disservice to him and disservice to the industry. So I'm sure they'll keep him over there. Fantastic. But going back to that article, it's scary, isn't it? From book to book, you can literally go next door from one of these big factories to the next big factory. And, here or even Atlantic City and stuff, especially Atlantic City. And the rules change from book to book. So know your rules, know your sportsbook's rules and the individual's rules. You can have something count at one sportsbook, but not count at another sportsbook. That is so scary to me that it's not a universal thing. But then again, we're in unprecedented times here. So it's very interesting what that article really pointed it out to people, including myself.
Let me ask you this, Bill, because I think, first of all, what you're saying is 100% right. And we've said it, if not 1,000 times, right? Always check the rules of your sportsbook no matter what you're betting. That should be, written on the 10 commandments of sports betting, right? That's in there. Always check the rules. And no more pertinent time than now, as you said, because of the strange time that we're in. But stepping back from that, okay, so I get it. You whatever the rules are that were stated, you should have been aware of them. Stepping back from that, just from, just a commonsensical standpoint, how do you feel about the different ways? Like, in other words, if I had a bet on Ohio State or someone from Ohio State to win the Heisman, and you're telling me it's live, Yeah, I probably should have checked the rules, but man, that sort of sucks. I guess the other sort of thing I would throw in there, and maybe people are going to think I'm not being very kind about this, but there's part of my brain that's like, you shouldn't have been betting college football anyway. Like you should have known this sport was like the most likely not to happen, right?
Yeah, no, really, that's a great point. And I think I read somewhere on Twitter this morning. It might have been Stonebeck was quoted as saying, or something. They said that only 10%. They're only getting football future bets at 10% compared to last year of last year's volume at this time of the year. So most people do know. About 9 out of 10 do know. So they're not betting, and that hurts. Believe it or not, that hurts us as an industry, though, because those sports books look to grab that money, and they kind of make a couple bucks on it for 6 months or whatever, by pocketing that money and holding on to it and earning some interest off it. So it hurts the whole industry that this is all going on, of course. But going back to the rules from book to book, I know just from my buddy dealing with the gaming board back in New Jersey about a month ago, DraftKings and FanDuel had two different rules on the Masters futures. So on a couple different golf futures. So you have to check, because I'll tell you right now, you'll be shocked to know that there are differences in those books. So and not always so clearly evident in the rules page. That's what he had to do. He had to call gaming, and then it was taken care of right away. But speaking of which, I'm actually a little bit surprised, Gil. We talked about this last week. I think it's been almost a month now. Those soccer futures in Indiana and New Jersey, no decision on that yet. So,
still no decision, yeah.
I think this is probably an area that's probably pretty scary for gaming and stuff. They just don't know what to do in this situation. So we'll say. I'm actually surprised, though, that nothing has. It's funny. There could be a different rule in Indiana, of course, with their gaming board, and New Jersey. And don't think that that's not going to happen. It looked like to me, if I had to put a line on this, I would say Indiana's not paying anybody, and I would say New Jersey may pay some people.
Well, that was what I pointed out, and big assist to Captain Jack, because he put context on this for me, that Indiana's rules are written. We're talking, by the way, for those who are wondering, we're talking about something Bill and I talked about, was it last week or a couple weeks ago? I can't even remember. Yeah. Where there were these soccer bets across multiple soccer leagues, MLS, La Liga, Serie A. There were 4, I think, soccer leagues across the world. And for 3 days, not like a glitch in a system, but for there was a sort of mechanical error in what was happening behind the scenes in pricing when you took teams on alternate lines. When you took them at like +2 goals, something happened in their system over at FanDuel where all of a sudden their pricing went out of whack. So you ended up with these really weird prices, like Cincinnati in the MLS. You had a line on them +5 goals, not +0.5 goal, but +5 goals against their opponent, and you only had to lay like -134. Should be like -4,000. Anyway, the point was that those lines were up for 3 days. 3 entire days, 72 hours. And so, yeah, eventually bettors aren't dumb. They can sniff out an error, from a mile away. So people bet these things, and a lot of people had winning bets. By the way, a lot of people lost too, but a lot of people had a lot of big winning bets. And so the question that Bill is talking about is how these are going to be handled. And it's going to come down to jurisdiction versus jurisdiction. And you're right. Indiana's gaming regulations are written in such a way where it sort of favors the books no matter what. So even if and the big question with all this is, at what point does it become the casinos, the sportsbooks' fault that they're so negligent? Like at some point, too bad, you got to pay these guys, but not the case in Indiana necessarily with the way it's written. You're right, New Jersey. I think this is going to go for the bettors. It really better. Let me just put it that way. Like I really think that New Jersey is going to do the right thing here with that.
You summed it up with some great words there. At what point is it our responsibility that we shouldn't bet something? I mean, there's some blatant things like pass posting, like what happened out here in Las Vegas, which the gaming board ruled in favor of the casino. And then there's something like this in New Jersey where they have lines up for 3 days and no one catches it because of incompetence in-house. So that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to do one job, just get your lines right. I mean, why do we have to be penalized at all times when we feel something is wrong here. And also something very important. What if the other side, now, of course, the soccer game, you're a 99% favorite or 95% favorite. What if it would have lost? Do you have a right to get your money?
Yeah.
No way. I'll give you the answer real quick. No way. So, I don't know. I just don't. There's a fine line you have to draw in the sand here and say, don't cross that line. But it's not our fault. I hate when I make a bet with a sports book and I get put in that spin mode and the bookmaker has to check to see if he take the bet, because now, let's face it, we're actually doing the work for the bookmaker. You could pay someone $11 an hour and, sit in front of a screen there and just deny the bets and not have any bookmaking go into that or decision making. So it's kind of bothersome that I see that with some of the sports books. I want to know, even the books back east, when I'm back in Jersey betting, some of these things spin, and they'll deny you. They'll deny you.
Yeah, I think all of this, Bill, we're talking about Krackomberger, of course, staple of a show here on a numbers game every Thursday here, second hour. I think all of this falls under the general category because we covered the FanDuel thing a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned the part about if it was reversed, would they refund the guy? All of these things are fascinating, ethical things within the sports betting industry, right? So the FanDuel case is one thing, the pass posting is another. This college football thing with futures, right, is a much more deliberate decision that needs to be made because these are about a season that may or may not happen. It may happen partially, and it may happen in a form that we could not have anticipated with how they would crown a national champion. All of these questions fall under this general umbrella of ethics in sports betting. And I guess the one thing that I would sort of throw out there, and this, sort of piggybacks off what you were just saying, is at some point we all have to know that this is a symbiotic relationship. Like there's a give and take here, right? So for every spin cycle that you were just talking about, which goes against a bettor, at some point you have to do the bettors right, because if the bettors continually get wronged in whatever issue, right, of all of the above, then again you will not accomplish the very thing that you hope to, which is to get everybody to bet in legal jurisdictions, right? So there has to be some give and take. There has to be some tacit agreement between the player and the book that this has some semblance of being fair. Now, as I say that, I sort of want to chuckle right after that because I'm like, all right, I mean, I kind of know how this gets weighted, but you know what I mean. Like, we have to know that there's integrity involved and that the bettor's not going to get screwed in every single one of these cases. And as you see from book to book, there's no uniform answer from book to book, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It's all a very, interesting thing to talk about, quite frankly. And we all just want the best for the industry.
Hey, we're just Gill, your show and me, when we're on Thursdays especially, we're going to call the books out if we see something happen wrong, if we don't agree or we do agree. And I think we're very impartial. I think we're very fair, whether it be, the guy up in Reno that bet at William Hill, which I took William Hill's side on that, or it's going to be a bettor that we actually agree with. And so we'll give our opinion on the show and talk about either way. So we're kind of impartial. Yes, we're bettors, so we want to take the bettors back.
Sometimes, and I'm sorry, Billy, because you're right. Sometimes I think our reputation gets the best of us too, because sometimes we're not even going after a sports book, and that sports book, because of something we may have said in the past, interprets it as if we are, and we're not. It's like it's a broader issue oftentimes.
For sure. That's a very good point. So it's not only negative press about somebody. We actually do both sides of the counter here. So, but yes, in the end, I like to be the voice of the little guy.
Me too.
The guy that has 150 Twitter followers and really can't really get to the big sports books. So I like to be the voice of them and try to help them out if they have an issue. More often than not, though, their issue is can be handled at a certain level because, let's just face it, there's guys that will go around sports books, and what they do is they just try to find out what the weaknesses are, like blackjack players, like guys that try to go around find the tables to count down cards, or maybe hole card in the casino. There's those lions that are looking for weak gazelle everywhere.
Looking for weak. That's a great. Lions looking for weak gazelle everywhere. There's an image. There's a vivid image.